Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. It's the middle of the week. We're approaching Thanksgiving. Want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving out there. We are going to start you off on your Thanksgiving holiday week/weekend with a tape review pod from the Eagles' 40-29 win over the New Orleans Saints, their second straight win, 3 out of 4. We can talk about turning the corner. Very impressive stuff the Eagles have been doing. We'll get into in this podcast some of the dynamics of what you saw in their running game, some of the dynamics of what you saw on defense. I think there were some interesting things, Adam, that aren't really apparent to the naked eye or, even while you're watching the game going on. It's fascinating to find in film review. So we will get into that. Of course, Q&A. They are not taking the week off. They will drop 6 a.m. on Thursday, so make sure you're listening out for the Quentin, Michael, and Jason Avant show on the Inside the Birds podcast. We, of course, will do our Sunday pregame show, which is getting better and better, and we're getting great reviews. So we really appreciate everybody who's reached out. Jason Avant, Greg Cosell, Adam, and myself. We're really starting to – we're like the Eagles. We had a little rough first week or two there with the technical issues and things, but everything's been worked out. We're really hitting our stride. Yeah, it's been really good. Amazing. It's been really good stuff.
Pretty special. Right.
Definitely. So we're going to do also, Adam, a Q&A show. We're not going to live stream it. I mean, I shouldn't say Q&A. I mean, Ask ITB. We're not going to live stream it. We're just going to take the questions and put it out as an ITB TV later this week. So how can people send questions to get their Ask ITB questions answered?
Yeah, so we've got a half dozen already. We got them within like half an hour, 45 minutes after I posted it. So it's Wednesday morning. Just go to our Facebook page. I'm going to put another post up there. I did one on Tuesday, and I'll put another one up later today before we tape that one. And yeah, we'll probably take 10 to 15 questions. Do like always, do about a half an hour. And the nice thing is we're just answering questions, and what we're doing is we're developing some of those questions into kind of the broader picture of what this team looks like. We're not taking draft questions. With the draft, we have no idea who's in the draft yet because the deadline's not until January 15th, so there's no point talking about it. And the Eagles are not looking towards a draft right now. They have draft meetings in February, but right now, like all teams, they're trying to figure out what they are as a football team. So obviously we'll take Jalen Hurts' future, current, what's the thinking, what does he look like, organizational questions, the Brandon Brooks question, which is certainly a big one. I know a bunch of people will keep asking us. We're looking into it, and we have our thoughts, which we gave in the last show. So lots going on with the Eagles. It's all good. And we look forward to kind of seeing what happens here.
All right, cool. You can also submit some questions. We'll take some more through Apple Podcast reviews. If you go to the Apple review and give us a 5-star review, I promise you we will not only answer your question, but answer it with so much thoroughness. You will just feel so enlightened.
Vigor.
Yes, with vigor and alacrity. We'll answer your question if you leave us a 5-star review, no matter what you ask us. Sure. I put that challenge out there. No matter what you ask us, we will answer it as long as we get a 5-star review. We appreciate that. A couple people in the last week, several actually, have given us more of those, so we really appreciate it. Adam's power rankings are out, and they're up on InsideTheBirds.com, so make sure you go check it out. He's got another new number 1. So please go and it's a free subscription. Get your RSS feed to get all the great content from Inside the Birds delivered right to your reader. We really appreciate that as well. And, there's a lot of – I'm glad this is a tape review podcast. There's a lot that we're going to get into and break it down. But we'd be remiss if we didn't kind of just talk real quick about kind of the sort of the breaking news of the matchup, and that's the Giants fired their offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett. I know Q&A are going to talk about that a little bit too in the impact, but normally, they just came out of their bye week, so it's kind of weird to see that they did it now. And
after the game,
I've heard both sides of the coin here, Adam, where it's a good thing for the Eagles because it means the Giants are really disjointed, and now they've got to get the new guy in there. But then I've also heard it's a bad thing for the Eagles because Garrett's play calling hadn't been very good, and Freddie Kitchens might take over here. And they've got a lot of offensive weapons, and if someone could figure out how to use them pretty well, they could actually be a pretty dangerous team. Where do you stand on this as a good thing or a bad thing from an Eagles standpoint?
I could tell you this. I've talked to coaches who have been asked to do this, where they're a positional coach, and in season their OC gets fired and they have to call the plays. You have to run the same scheme. You can't change your scheme in season. You can change your philosophy. You could be more innovative. You could go more 12 instead of 11, or 11 more 12. They're a heavy 12 team because Jason Garrett's running North Turner's system, which is a heavy 12 team. That's why Kyle Rudolph was there. Well, unfortunately, got hurt in the last game. He's one of the better blocking tight ends in the NFL. They're very deep at tight end, but they're also deep at receiver, which you were alluding to.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what Freddie Kitchens, the early word, we'll talk more about this for the Friday show. The early word I've heard on him, he's very pass happy. And it's funny. Joe Judge is an old school, though he's coached offense receivers for the Patriots. He's really another one of these guys who wants to be run first, which he was getting to a certain extent, but they've had so many injuries at receiver, and Barkley just cannot stay healthy. Jason Garrett didn't do a very good job. There's no question. The rankings are bad, but they could rarely get the receiver core together. There's a stat they put up on Monday Night Football of how Tony, Galladay, and Sterling Shepard's always hurt. Good player, but unfortunately he's hurt a lot. They lost Dante Pettit for the season. Another receiver is also hurt. They just can't keep these guys together. It's impacted their offense. Daniel Jones, very quietly, by the way, no matter what people tell you, no matter what the fans think. Although the Giant fans that I sparred with earlier actually, it's funny. I was telling them that will Daniel Jones get traded when they fire Gettleman? I just put that out in September, and they didn't like it. They're saying, you don't know, you're talking about Daniel Jones has been great. I'm like, I didn't say he wasn't playing great, but fact of the matter is this was a Gettleman decision. And he actually has not played poorly. Don't let the numbers fool you. He's actually played fairly well. But they're in disarray, as you said. They should be way better, and Dave Gettleman is the one who's going to get the brunt of this. I mean, I don't see Joe Judge going anywhere, but that's the Giants, and Eagles are coming out of an amazing win. Really, as you alluded to, just so much went on, and I can't wait to get to remember saying on our pregame show, I cannot wait for this game. The Saints game, I was like, this going to be fascinating because I'm starting to trust this coaching staff more, and I'm like, Gannon, I just don't know. And then we have this game, and then he called a great game, so we'll get into that.
Well, the Eagles, we called it a heavyweight fight in the trenches leading up to the game, and the Eagles won on a TKO. I mean, they knocked the Saints out with their running game, and of course with their pressure up front. We'll get into that. And some people now are of the belief the Eagles have really turned a corner. And there are some people who are thinking that they can run the table here as they finish the season. I think there's a little bit of naivety in that, but you know what? Hey, things are going good. I'm not going to begrudge the Eagle fan for being optimistic. The schedule certainly looks pretty favorable here as long as the Eagles continue to play at the level that they're playing at. So we'll get into that. And listen, the Eagles are winning. And you and we're winning too, not because of anything we're doing on the field. Of course, we gave that up a long time ago, but we're winning because we use Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest running penny auction website and app around. And if it sounds too good to be true, well, I can understand that because we've seen a car go for $900 and a TV, brand new TV, less than $2. So don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for things you want. Just get on Deal Dash. Go to DealDash.com or download the app. And when you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. I mean, folks, it's the holidays. So, I mean, go out and get some of the most top of the line gift ideas you can get, whether it's electronics or household appliances, anything. If you got the time to sit there and do the, reset, wage, it's like being at the casino. Throw a penny in, throw a penny in, throw a penny in. You can get something great for a real discount value. And this is the time to do it. So let us talk real quick, as we always do before we get into the tape review about some of the things that have transpired over the last 2 to 3 days. The Eagles are protected 3 again. I feel like they're trolling us at this point because you can protect 4, but they only protect 3 now for the 3 weeks or 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
John Hightower, of course, he's the 53rd guy. Brett Toth and safety Jared Maiden have all been protected. Do you think Jared Maiden will one day get called up for his maiden voyage, Adam?
You're waiting to use that. Well, see, here's the thing, though. They do have a lot of safeties. Now, you could argue, as we've always argued, that doesn't mean they're any good. Right. But Kushiri is a kid that'll play on special teams. Yeah. Epps, boy, do they play dime. I'm so amazed at so many things that these coaches did. They're just, I'm learning through this whole ordeal of this season. When I say ordeals, the up and down nature of this football team. When you have a new staff, I should know better. I cover 32 teams. I see this in all these markets. Like I do radio in Kansas City every week. They wanted Spags fired 7 weeks, and they wanted this guy fired. They wanted Spags out. They're mad at Andy. It's just funny. And you go to this Philly market. Here we go. They want the GM fired. They want the defensive coordinator fired 2 months ago. It doesn't change here.
All right, I want to help you out with something. All right, repeat after me. All right. Sasha Ray.
Sasha Ray, okay. Sasha Ray, whatever.
All right, because a couple of times you've turned him into Austin Crocier, the old Indiana.
Yes, if you could tell Mike or tell Mike Gill that it's Rager, not Rieger.
Yeah. Well,
I know Mike listens.
Thing going on with that. There are a couple of Reggers too. You know, like the Eggles and Beggles thing going on.
Eggles, right? Eagles.
Our buddy, I've heard our buddy Joe to camera say Regger a couple of times, and you know that's the Delco coming out into him right there.
There he is, Mr. Delco. That's right, Joey D. As I call him, Joey. He loves that.
Joey from Delco.
Joey D.
All right, the Eagles at Washington game is going to be a 1:00 game. It was not one of the two Saturday games they're going to have. It was listed as TBD all year, so that means, and us in the media, we love this. Every game from here on out is going to be Sunday at 1:00. I can't stand 4:00 games and Thursday night games. Just for media, I have no problem watching other teams play them. I just don't like to have to cover them. It crunches our time. So. 1:00 Sunday. That's the way football should be played. Is there any game that you could see potential? Maybe against Washington, getting flexed. I'd have to see what else is going on.
It just depends.
It's impossible to tell right now.
I don't see anything moving at night unless it's like week 17.
Well, that's what I meant. The Washington game perhaps could be flexed, but I doubt it.
Of 18, it all comes down to, and they'll do this like even if one of the teams is eliminated, but the other team it means something, they'll move that game. Like it's all. I remember who did I talk to? Someone on a TV program many years ago. It wasn't Howard Katz. I've talked to Howard before, who's a schedule maker, but I just remember hearing the bargain that goes on with the network. It's really super cool. In fact, we need to get Howard on someday.
Sure.
He's awesome. He's a great story about. And we've talked about this before to Joe Banner, but we never went too deep into it. About when Eagles were not happy. It might have been the Vince Young Thursday night game,
right?
When they played Sunday. Then I think you know these things better than I do. Did they play Thursday night in Seattle when playing at home Sunday or something stupid like that?
Yes, yeah, and then because of that, they wound up changing the rules the following year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Joe called the office, and that's all I'm going to say. And next time we get Joe on, I want him to talk about it. And I remember talking to Howard about it. And this is many years ago, but Howard and Joe tell an interesting story about that phone call, and we'll let them tell it maybe. But
sure.
Well, it's funny because remember, the Cardinals. It might have been their Super Bowl year. I cannot remember. You'll remember this because you're great with this stuff. So you and DeCamera never forget this stuff. Didn't the Cardinals play on a Sunday? Kurt Warner's with the Cardinals, and they came in. The Eagles crushed them on a Thursday night. Didn't that happen here?
That was Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Okay. Thursday night.
Thanksgiving game. Yeah. Thursday night game.
Yeah. And that it's just so unfair to make a team fly.
It really is.
Like that.
It really is. So, because the Cardinals were way back. Obviously, the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl that year, right? So
yeah, I thought so.
They beat the Eagles to get to the Super Bowl
yep.
that year. So yeah, they were clearly a better team than what they showed that day, and that was an awful lot to have to play Sunday and then travel all the way across the country for the Thursday game. You're right. Things have changed. As I look at the schedule for this year, Adam, the Eagles and will play Washington week 17, and maybe there's a chance that game gets flexed into the 4:00 spot.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Because the Rams and Ravens are going to play that week, and that's currently the 4:00 game. So I have a feeling that'll be important for both those teams. And then the 8:00 game on NBC is Vikings Packers. There's no way they're moving that.
No, hell no. So, no. But I can see. Yeah, I don't see it. No, I could see 4:00. Yes, to move it to 4.
Well, if they do that, do they make the Rams Ravens game then only a regional 4:00 game and Eagle? Okay. I don't know if you would, because I don't know if they
study
take the 4:00 game out and make it one.
I didn't really look at the week 17 schedule. I was just looking at the Eagles Washington game. If Washington by some miracle is still in it, look, they're playing well. The last 2 games is really hard to believe how they. I don't say they've turned things around. They're 4-6, but they've gotten better all of a sudden. But we'll see. Look, that's well down the road. But this game, that just happened had so many subplots to it. This Eagles Saints game, it's funny because I've tried to get a book on the staff, and every time I think I got it, I get it wrong. But I wanted to pick the Eagles to blow them out, but I couldn't do it because I don't trust Gannon.
Right.
My trust level went from a 3.5 to like a 6.25 now after this game. But my trust level in Sirianni is so strong. And we'll get into that as we break down what we've heard from other people and what we know with our own eyes. But it was a real fascinating game. A little bit different than I watching on TV, but it just certainly was a very well coached game by the coaches.
So all 5 of us on the pregame show picked the Eagles to win, but of all of the 5, I picked them to win by 10. So the fact they won by 11, I would have to say I win, right? I was close. I was
there
with
you go.
I said I was going to kick myself for doing it afterward, and I did not. So I, just like you said, I don't trust the staff, but I can't ignore the lack of personnel and talent that the Saints were bringing in on the offensive side with all their injuries. So I gave the Eagles the benefit of the doubt, and they rewarded me. They rewarded everybody. But one of the subplots you're talking about is there was a price to pay for victory. Running back Jordan Howard got a knee sprain. The coaches made it sound like it would take a miracle for him to play. He's been a huge part of their turnaround in their run game. Now, Kenny Gainwell, I imagine, who was just inactive for this last week, will probably be
he has to be the third
back up. And Justin Huntley. It's funny. I had a friend who hit me up and said, I would like to see Justin Huntley run behind. And I forgot he was on the I had totally forgotten.
So did I.
Team.
I had to look it up.
Yeah.
Because I want to see if they had a power back on the practice squad. I'm like, Jason Huntley's still here? When did this happen?
I was shocked. I guess he's been with the team all year long. Who knew?
Here's the thing with Huntley. He's an analytics player. If you just go by numbers, speed, he hit line source told me that was the one thing that they knew when they drafted him, that he hit certain metrics, but he didn't return well for them. We were told, and it would make no sense for him to be, because Gainwell's the third back for this week.
Right.
Do you need to have 4 active?
He doesn't do something differently than Gainwell, right? I mean, if anything, he's speed. Like if you had a power back like Jordan Howard, maybe I don't know. They had Elijah Holyfield. They never last year brought him up either, but maybe this year they would have.
Where it's going.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to see with Jordan Howard, and obviously this will be the biggest threat to what they've been able to do for the last 4 weeks, not having Jordan Howard, and of course Darius Slay. We know he's in the concussion protocol. This to me is huge, even bigger than Jordan Howard, because
you can't underestimate that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've seen how this defensive coordinator coaches, how differently he coaches when he doesn't have Darius Slay in the game, not only in the second half against the Saints, but also against the Chargers. Remember, he was doing some different stuff against the Chargers. It wasn't working, but he was trying to do different stuff. And then Slay went out, and then all bets were off. And of course, Zach McPherson. When you talk about Zach, right? When you talk about the difference between having Slay and Nelson as opposed to Nelson and Zach McPherson,
no,
you're not trying to give the offensive any advantages, but that's a really, really big drop off. You would think.
Oh no, it is. No, we don't have to think. It is. It's 1,000% drop off. Yeah, it's. Here's the problem. Okay, first of all, Slay is playing at a Pro Bowl level. We all know this. He's been tremendous. It's just, I'd have to ask the Lions this. I don't know if he's played this well before. He's been good before. Would make the Pro Bowl twice in his career.
3 times.
3 times.
Three times. He had a year where he had 6 or 8 picks. I mean, he had one of those great years. But yeah.
But picks are individual plays. But just from coverage, just not giving up the big plays that he gave last year, just shutting down the opponent. He's just been great. And he's a leader. He's just been great. He really has been. But McPherson's just not ready. From my understanding is that he's a pretty good kid. He's a pretty smart kid. But this is a new defense he's playing in it. He's a typical rookie. He's not ready to play. Like he got thrown in there. This is the second time he's been thrown in there. They went after him that's what coaches do. You see a new guy go in who's not playing very much. They have statistics in the game, and they already know going in, okay, if this happens, this kid goes in. They know from tape study. This is what happens. They don't have anybody else. Zach McPherson's got to be that guy. And if he has to start now the way what your hope is, if you're the Eagles, before we move on to the tape review stuff, is that Slay, like Goddard, gets cleared to practice, non-contact on Thursday. That's the fourth spot in protocol.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is full practice on Friday. If he gets to that, all you need is final clearance by independent neurologist, and you get cleared. So if he practices, if he works a non-contact like Goddard did, you saw that. I think you told me last Thursday you saw him, right? I think you were there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. If you see that, he's on his way. If he feels good after Thursday, he's probably going to get cleared. So we'll see. If he doesn't work Friday, it's highly unlikely he's playing.
All right. Well, we will keep tabs on that. That might be the single most important player right now on the Eagles team. If you want to talk about, this winning streak staying alive. All right, let's get into the game. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB. Bet just $1 on any Thanksgiving NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. That's promo code ITB this Thanksgiving at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And of course, if you want to own DraftKings Sportsbook, you want to own your whatever sportsbook you're using, download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. They've got this computer model that scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and the reason why you should place the bet. Their model covers spreads, over-unders, player prop bets, everything. And if you don't want to use the model, scrap it. They got all the necessary tools that you would want for your betting research needs, talking about sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news. They even have a leaderboards to track your success. So go to the App Store or go to the Google Play Store now to download BetQL. You can also go to the website try.betql.co/ITB and enter the discount code ITB at payment checkout to get 25% off subscription offerings. And don't miss their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on your chance to beat your sportsbook this football season using BetQL. All right, Adam, let's talk about the offense. The Eagles offense rolling up 40 – well, the offense did not score 40 points because they got a defensive touchdown.
Yeah.
Right, but the offense definitely rolled. And, look, for anybody who thinks that the Eagles are just lining it up, running the ball down the other team's throats and, making their yardage that way, they'd be very wrong. I'm sure, you're about to tell us from some personnel sources that what the Eagles are doing is very diversified and I say a lot more sophisticated than probably 2 or 3 weeks ago when they really were just going under center, lining up and running the ball down the throats.
So in the Raider game was really the first time that they started to do a little different stuff. And I didn't realize it until talked to one person this week about it. And I think you had mentioned it also. Mm-hmm. Remember, I think they ran the ball like 32 times in the Raider game, though they still lost. They were down 30. They gave up 30 straight points. I believe they ran over the ball over 30 times in that game.
Yeah, I remember the first 2 drives they were run. I mean, until Miles Sanders got hurt. Yeah.
So that was a precursor to all of this. So you fast forward to, like you were saying, in this game, they did so much different stuff. Hurts was in the shotgun again, but it's funny because the game before that, the Denver game, he was almost all in the shotgun, but the week before that they did both shotgun and under center. Mm-hmm. But the thing that they did here was, now this surprised me. They were really heavy 11 personnel with 3 receivers, some 12, some 11, 13 tight end. Tyree Jackson got in the first quarter, got blown up on he got blown up unfortunately on one pass play that Hurts was late on the throws. He personally really wasn't late. It made him late because he got hit. But same stuff as the week before. A lot of zone read, some college elements. They're bringing back some of the college stuff. But the thing is, and we're gonna tie this in with the offensive line before we get to the running backs. Doing this offense thing is going to be pretty easy to go through here. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of what people saw on television, but it's how they did it, right? There lots of double teams.
Yep.
And walling off. And that's why you saw all that spacing. You go, God, I can't believe the spacing. You could see this on television. Well, here's the thing. Hurts did such a great job of, and this is where Carson Wentz was not good at the zone read or read option. Anytime he had or play action, Wentz was so bad at hiding the football. Hurts, who was not great at this early in the season, was exceptional this game. He was great in the Denver game with it too.
Mm-hmm.
You watch smart players like Demario Davis, who's such a good football player, and watch Steve Jordan's son, Cameron Jordan. I always say Steve because his dad was the tight end for the Vikings. For those of us who are a little bit older, I remember his dad.
That's why I always get him messed up with Cam Hayward, because Hayward's dad played in the NFL. Was
right, Ironhead, late Ironhead,
both
right,
linemen, right, yeah.
right. So, and there was one play where you see Cameron Jordan. He didn't shake his head. I think he was kind of surprised that. See, what happened was they gave the Saints so many unscattered looks, stuff they did not do with the run game element. Hurts is, my goodness gracious. There's no way to know this. I would have to ask. Easily half of his runs were designed. Easily. It wasn't just breaking the pocket. Sure, he does that. There were probably 3 or 4 plays I wish he would have hung in there. Mm-hmm. But there were some beautifully designed runs. And obviously the touchdown run where he did the juke move and he did it. It wasn't a crossover move like Iverson, but he broke the guy's ankle. It's just, I don't know if that was improvised. I just don't know. Did they do this in practice? I have no idea. I'd love to know that. Did anyone ask him that?
I mean, that was clearly a design run. Now the juke.
The juke. When he stuck his right foot and then he went the other way. I'm like,
that's just like when you're playing Madden and you hit the L1.
Right. So cool.
Yeah.
Right. That's what Lane Johnson said.
Right. So I agree. I think 2 things come into play here, Adam. I think one is that you're facing the best run defense in the league, right? So it's to your advantage if you can spread them out a little bit in 11 personnel and not have them get even bigger and key in on what you're doing.
Good point. Yeah.
So that's one. Number 2 is I think they're a very disciplined defense, regardless of whether you're in 11, 12, or 13. You have to be able to run the ball in ways that you didn't run it the play before and the play before and the play before. Remember we talked earlier in the year about the lack of sequencing in Nick Sirianni's play calling. All right. Well, now everything is being done to me with the next play in mind and the next play in mind and the next play in mind. There were a couple of times.
I thought of you. Just real quick. When you said that, it's funny because when I was taking my notes on Tuesday late afternoon, early evening, I thought of you because you had brought that up 6 weeks ago about, if they would just run the ball, this would set up other stuff which they could continue to do.
Right.
Then you just mentioned, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I didn't put it exactly like you said on your notes. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then all you really need when you're facing such a good defense and disciplined defense is the element of surprise and maybe a split second to catch guys going in a different direction. So
that's
you
it.
saw
100%.
Inside zone, you saw outside zone, you saw split zone as far as just the alignment with tight ends on each side, and as opposed to just sticking 2 tight ends on one side. What you also saw was fly motion with Jalen Reagor running
orbit.
up. Yep. You saw misdirection runs. You saw pin pull sweeps, which is when the tackle and the guard both, pull out to the right or pull out to the left. And then sometimes you saw that, but then the running back went the other way. So there were times where they ran the same formation, but a different play from the same formation so that the Saints didn't, thought that same play was coming, but then realized it was going in a different direction. I don't think the Saints are bad. I don't think that. No, I think the Eagles did a great job of mixing things up. And as we said on Monday's podcast, the added element this week, this game, to me, that made it so different is now you're starting to work the quarterback run off of your conventional running game. That's very Ravens-like, and not just running to the edges. The one you're talking about where Jalen Hurts ran was a zone read, I believe, where they read the tackle, not the edge defender, and then he took off up the middle when the tackle got upfield. It left a hole there. That's a lot of what Lamar Jackson does with the Ravens, or I should say Greg Roman does, and has Lamar operate. And that's an element that worked because the Saints were really, really trying from a passing standpoint to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket. We'll get to that in a minute. I mean, they were definitely afraid of how he could hurt them improvisationally.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so the Eagles decided, well, let's not hurt them improvisationally. Let's design it to hurt them. So whatever, it was like chess versus checkers, and they pushed all the right buttons, and it was really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, Sirianni and his staff, and there's no way to know this. I don't think he would answer this because he doesn't want to tip anything off.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe I know the reporters were asking him earlier in the season. It might have been after the Atlanta game because that was a big time college offense that they ran in week 1 against Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And he had said, no one really on their staff had experience running those type of plays, but he goes, it's not. He goes, he was just talking about the read option. You look where the N is, and you run the play off of that. Where the N is lined up. He said it's not very hard, but they did so much stuff in this game. I would love to know who would input. Was it Brian Johnson, who was an OC at Florida? Was it was it Jamal Singleton, who coached a lot in college?
Right.
Was it Jeff Stalin, coach in college at Alabama? Like, I love to know just the breakdown of who had input. We'll never know because he won't say exactly. He'll just, everyone has input. That's what they all say. But so let me look at the rest of my notes here.
Well, you're looking at there were certain plays, Adam, where the running lane was so wide open, and
I told you
it's not just because though that they're enormous, right? Because the Saints have big guys too. I think they did an excellent job of knowing that if they ran a certain play against a certain look, we call it, there's a bubble. It's called the bubble of a defense, right? Whether it's a cut, usually that's a term, like the cutback lane is there because you want them to cut back on this zone to find that bubble. They did an excellent job of realizing where the bubbles were going to be in their blocking scheme so that the running back would just be able to go right through the hole. And man, Jordan Howard, he just gets skinny through that hole. So, I mean,
it's in my notes. It's so funny.
Is it? All right. Yeah, he does.
Someone pointed it out
so
to me.
Well. Yeah.
They never saw him squeeze it. Like, it's so funny. It's like you read my notes, but I don't think I put that in my notes. It's actually in my other notes, which I'm looking at. So one guy said to me, he goes, with Chicago was way too finesse before he got heavy. He just was too finesse, and it really bothered the Bears, probably more the personnel staff when they would grade the tape for free agency, whether they want to bring him back or not. Mm-hmm. He got so skinny in the hole. I don't know what his weight is. He sure looks like he's thinner. He was just so good. And did you notice he was lined up on Wildcat? Unfortunately, the Eagles got a
penalty on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it because Jordan Howard on Wildcat. What?
I actually was like, why are you doing this? This was like week 2, San Francisco. You're trying to get cute. Sure. You're doing such an excellent job. But I almost was thankful that the penalty took him out of it. Because
but you know what?
He would have gotten so much criticism for it.
Right. But it just shows you how confident they are that anything they could do could work. So let me get to the pre-snap motion. And this is what I was talking about Demario Davis. You could see this actually on TV if you slow it, if you just watch it over and over, the same play. Watch Demario Davis get cleaned out of the box, and watch, because he would have been the downhill thumper. I think he's 56, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But Rager was the pre-snap motion guy, which he's really what his role is right now, is to bring that guy out. And you have to follow him. When you follow him, by the rule, you're taking someone out by the box. You've got a defender out. They're polishing off. Their double teams are polishing, and then the surface block, which I talked about on Monday. Surface block is when you off your double team, you have to come up for air. So they say, coaches will tell you, and then you go get the next guy. They were so dominant and so almost perfect in this game. I'm sure Jeff Stoutland said, not quite, but they were pretty damn good in this game. This is not only is it their best game of the year. I would have to ask some people who were with the Eagles in 17 if they ever had a game like this. Look, they've been unbelievable lately, but this thing, sometimes numbers could be skewed, and we had said that the Saints really had not faced very many good running backs, but they didn't have. I don't want to say like Wilbert Montgomery could come out of retirement and run in this game, but I do believe that they made these guys look better than they were. Scott looked good. Howard looked great. Miles Sanders, by the way, 2 things. Yes, the ball security is majorly disappointing. That 25-yard run. Now, I saw the coaching tape, but you could see it on TV because I saw both. Watch him wait, and he did it for an eighth of a second. If he doesn't wait, he doesn't get 25 yards. 25 yards. It would have been for 5 or 7 yards. That's his maturity of a runner, his vision. Mm-hmm. He does a slight hesitation he hits the left hole, and he stops his feet and wait just for a second, and then he hits it. And you see him like he knew it. He felt really good about himself on the way back. And he hits the ball hard now, as Cosell told us. He's very physical now. Now the ball security is a problem. This has been Wasn't a problem at Penn State very much, but sure as hell is here.
Yeah, no doubt. He's got to get that. I mean, now more than ever, if Jordan Howard's going to be out, he's got to assume even more responsibility, and he cannot put the ball on the ground. Division game, obviously, really important. Let's talk a little Jalen Hurts, because I said this on Monday that I suspected something. I was only able to run it by one person who's seen the tape and agreed, and maybe you got it as well. But you'd almost have to ask the Saints, really, if this is true. But the way they rushed the passer to me, we talked about the mush rush. It looked to me like they would fire. I mean, they have good defensive ends. They would fire. Davenport and Jordan are really good, but they fire off the ball and then I don't want to say stop, but they would not go full throttle toward the quarterback because they really wanted to keep him inside the pocket. And there were a bunch of plays, especially on third down in the first half, especially where, for example, the crossing route he threw to Devontae Smith that went for 33 yards, that was on third down. He had, I counted, 7 seconds to throw the ball. Now, the Saints are too good to give a quarterback 7 seconds to throw the ball unless they were intentionally holding up there at the last bit, trying to keep him in. I mean, it's not like they're not trying to rush the passer, but they are not going so far in to collapse the pocket that the quarterback leaves and they get burned that way. So into trying to do that, they sort of catered to Jalen Hurts and allowed him the time to be able to find a couple of guys wide open there on third down. So I understand their plan. It just didn't work for them from that perspective.
Right. I don't know. The mush rushers definitely are, but overall for the game, their protection was just flawless. It's just, I mean, rarely did they get beat. You know, Mailata, who I was told first couple weeks after he came back from the MCL sprain, clearly was not himself. His balance wasn't great, oversetting. It just wasn't where he was before the injury. Now he's back. It wasn't just the spectacular plays you see in social media, people, the pancake block and just some of the blocks that he had with Sunday. I'm just telling you, from pillar to post, he's so good right now that he's taking this game to another level. Because the one thing is we said, particularly last year, and also in 19, but the last year was the only time he really played. But last year, he didn't always use his strength the right way. He didn't quite understand, like, you got to be nasty. He's nasty right now. It clearly has gotten through. I don't know what they're saying to him, but it's clearly getting through. And just to finish this up, we'll get the receivers and tight ends. Won't take very long. And offense, which finish this off. Just think that they're doing without both starting guards, the way that they've taken this game to another level. As people are saying, and I think there's a lot of truth to it, just imagine if they would have tried to become more of a running offense much earlier in the season, how good they might actually be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many games would have reversed as far as the win-loss.
Niners game, maybe? Niners game absolutely would have been reversed. Because they came out throwing like crazy.
Bad defense in the second half of that game that, especially
on they only scored 11 points. And remember, they kept trying to stay. This is the difference between how Sirianni was in week 2 and now how he's matured as a head coach and a play caller. 6 shot plays in that Niners game, and it was ridiculous. They were so predictable just throwing the football. They had no rhythm at all. There was no connection between the run and pass game. He just had an awful game play call. Dallas game also very bad. The Chiefs game they had to throw. Hurts played relatively well in that game, but it wasn't until the Raider game, as you pointed out more than once, and we talked about in this show, that they really started seeing, what's going to help us win and help our quarterback? We're going to run the ball more. He's going to be a part of it. We're going to make our offensive line that's really talented be a big part of our success, and they've done that. And that's a good coaching move. That again, I wish they would have done it earlier, but this is who they are right now. This is their clear identity. And I know in that video that after the game, he's talking with how nasty. What did they say? Nasty or something? Whatever.
It's their nasty. They're nasty.
Whatever that means, I don't know. But other than that, their line is getting after it. But they're bringing it. You know what? I think part of it is probably because Sirianni wanted again to be more aggressive, and he has been lately. And we'll get to that, but it's something to behold. This offensive line and how unbelievably dominant it is, and you see the rest of their schedule: Giants, Jets, Washington, Jets, Giants, Washington. Then we'll see about Dallas, what they look like. I'm not saying they're going to run the table with the schedule, but there's a possibility to do really, really well. Because if you keep the same formula, and if they stop even if they stop you a little bit, you could when you there's certain things you could do with your pass game. You could change up those concepts a little bit, which I think they could do a better job. I thought the concepts could have been better in this pass game concepts. They didn't throw it a lot. But overall, to move this forward here, Sirianni's got it going on here in terms of understanding what it takes to win when you have the personnel that you have. That's called coaching.
Yeah. I think that you're right, though. I think that they will probably they may have to go do a little bit more under center again, just to work play action passing off of that, because it's not the same when you're in shotgun and you fake the handoff and like a zone, and then you're throwing. That's not true play action as far as sucking the linebackers in the way it is when you're downhill and you're under center, because they've got to figure out a way to scheme guys open more. They've got to
better. That's what I was going to get to.
Better. Yeah, they've got to figure out ways to get Rager or Quez or Greg Ward or whoever you're putting out there. Even Dallas Goedert, I think, has to touch the ball more, because eventually this run game is going to, someone's going to figure out something and put them into a few bad third downs, and they're going to have to figure out a way to pass the ball.
All right, so on that, let's move to receivers and tight ends, and we'll do O-line and defense. So what they have to do.
What you thought of Jalen Hurts as a thrower first? Is there anything?
I thought he wasn't as sharp as Denver. Denver, he was really good, really good.
I don't sharper at Denver.
I don't judge a quarterback by how many times he throws. I judge it by how he throws it. That's the only way you do it. You can throw it 25 times or 50 times. Doesn't matter to me. It's how do you throw it. I think at times I don't want to say he held on to it too long. Well, there were a couple plays he did, but I thought the ball could be a little bit more accurate. I don't say it floated, but it just was not as sharp, because I'd said on our Monday show, and then I got it backed up by someone. We saw in Denver, boy, it was his base. It's his base. I couldn't come up with the word on Monday, but when he gets his base, he has to have a good base. He cannot get away with it. His arm isn't strong enough. When he doesn't get a good base, he's got problems. That ball floats. It's got a tail on it.
Yeah.
When he gets a good base, he can drive it well enough. He's fine. He can do this. You saw the 91-yard touchdown to Quez. It was a catch and run 91 yards. It was an awesome throw in week 2 against the Niners. He rolled out, he squared, and he drove it off his back foot, and he rolled his hips. He's got to do that on passes past 20 yards. He just doesn't have a strong enough arm not to do that.
Right.
And I think we saw a little of that. His base needs to be better.
Yep. Well, we pointed out on Monday that he had that throw to Goddard on the first possession where it was weird. It just kind of came out of his hands like looping and then fell about 3 to 4 yards short. It was on the corner route, the right corner, and it just fell way short of him. And it was I'm
not sure. Was that the one he got hit? That wasn't the one he got hit.
No, he didn't get hit. It just was. It almost like he tried to, I hate to say this because I know how people react, but you know how Russ will throw those high arcing deep balls?
Yeah.
He kind of high arced it, and then it came down so fast that it came. Goddard had no ability to make a play on it. It was about 4 yards short of the route, the corner that he was running. The other two to me were just timing, right? The Miles Sanders, he just sees him too late, so that by the time he puts the ball in the air,
that's broken.
By the way, 50 made a heck of a play to bat it down at the last second.
Yes.
And
the ball hung because he was late, right? Because Hurts was late. They gave the DB a chance to recover, but I don't.
And then the same thing to Devontae. He had right at the goal. He had a long pass that was batted away at the last second because he was just didn't see it fast enough. Like the throw was there, it's just too much air for the coverage. So if you had thrown it earlier, that's a connection. So you hope that he kind of develops in there. But I agree. I thought the Denver game was a sharper game from a passing standpoint.
In the pocket. And in fact, the term that one person uses, he had never been better in a muddy pocket against Denver than any game. I'd have to go back and watch the Cardinals game last year where he was tremendous, where he put the team on his back, where they were behind. He brought the team back because people wanted to know, could he do it? Well, he did it last year. Again, different coach staff, different scheme and all that, different whatever. But he's at least done it before.
Right.
But, people keep asking us, there's just no way to answer this question. Well, what happens if teams start stopping their run game? And they have to pass more. Then they do. But they've got to be, as you were saying, they got to be more diverse in their scheme, their pass schemes. And they need a third passing option. Rager's got to be it. I mean, he has a role as a pre-snap guy. Okay. We know for a fact, you and I know this, we've known this for weeks. Every plays he's been open, he didn't get the football. I don't know. But it's up to Rager's got to be a bigger factor, and he's got to make himself a bigger factor. He's got to be better. But the coaches have to point this out because You're not going to get away with throwing the ball. This is not the Titans here running with Derrick Henry.
Right.
At some point, is crazy dominant. I'm going to think about this before we move on to defense. Through 6 weeks, no team ran fewer running plays with running backs than the Eagles through 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles are now the number 2 rushing offense in the National Football League in terms of yardage. How can that happen? It's only a matter of 5 weeks. Like, this is crazy. But at some point, reality is going to hit. As great as this O-line is, a great job as Sirianni's doing, it's just sometimes going to hit.
No doubt about it. All right, so that'll wrap it up on offense. We will next go to defense. Of course, first we will tell you to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you're checking them out on PHLSportsNation.com. And on Twitter, it's at PHLSportsNation. We'll pause real quick for a word from our other great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right, on to the Eagles defense. And boy, was Jonathan Gannon he was pulling bunnies out of his magic hat there, wasn't he? I mean, everybody was shocked. It's like, whoa, I think on the first series, he pulled out a double corner blitz where Maddox and Nelson came from the opposite sides and tried to meet the quarterback in the middle there. I was like, whoa, who is this guy?
Scouted looks. They didn't know it was coming. See, it's funny. We'd said on our Monday show, this thing was reminiscent of the game that Schwartz blitz 45 to 50% of the time against the quarterback for the Jets, the kid.
Yeah, Luke Falk.
What was the kid's name again? Luke Falk, right. Made him look like Peter Falk.
That poor guy, man. Oh, my God.
Peter Falk. Remember Peter Falk from Columbo? Made him look like him. I mean, it was unbelievable. And they came after Simeon. I mean, they brought the house. What they did is they brought the corner blitz. And what they did is, they were winning up front. They were making Simeon. This is my notes from people. The blitz packages were diverse. Simeon really struggled picking up some of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen is, because the Gannon knew that they were playing with 3 backup offensive linemen, there's no way these guys would have figured it out, and they couldn't. They're not experienced enough. Some of the offensive linemen that were playing, so they won. They won before the snap. They won before the game. He knew what he was getting, and I wasn't sure. This is why I wanted to go with the Eagles big. I didn't. My head said a more experienced coordinator would beat Sean Payton here. I just didn't know if he could do it. Now that I know he can do it, my trust level has gone up bigger. So you go to the Giants game this week, where they don't have a very good offensive line. They have a new offensive coordinator. There's no reason for him not to be aggressive. Do not sit back. I don't care if Zach McPherson is playing. Don't play passive. This has been Gannon's problem. Stop coaching scared. He hasn't coached scared the last couple of weeks. He didn't against Denver. He sure as hell didn't do that here. There's no excuse for coaching scared. It's called like it is. We're not the only people to say that. I know other people have said it. So they won up front. They won. Yeah. They won before this game started. Great job, I get it.
Yeah, pray for Slay, because I'm not convinced that Gannon will not
pray for Slay.
Yeah, pray for Slay, because I know I said it perfectly, intentionally. I'm not convinced that Gannon will be aggressive if he doesn't have Darius Slay. The evidence says that when Darius Slay is out of the game, he coaches differently. And I think that he's the type of guy that looks at the Giants and thinks, you know what? They do have weapons, man. They got Kadarius Toney, they got Golladay, they got Ingram, they got speed, they got Barkley, and remember, his core philosophy will never change, right? Him and Sirianni, they want to get explosive plays and limit explosive plays. So he's come out of his comfort zone. He's blitzed when the guys' names are Trevor Siemian, or when it's Teddy Bridgewater behind a makeshift offensive line that's missing 3 starters, right? I don't think will look at the Giants and say, I'm going to dial up as many crazy radical without Darius Slay. I just don't think he
probably won't. I would agree in hindsight with you. However, do not be going too deep, okay, and giving them so much room.
Yeah. Because
that's just not the way to coach. We'll see. We'll get to that for Friday's show, and I'm gonna get some opinions for that show. See what people think. But Oh, linebacker. Well, first of all, their line, and I know it doesn't show in the sacks, their line won. Again, sacks are just a result of one individual play. They got pressures in this game. They did very well. Cox and Hargrave and Sweat, they did a very good job. You notice Teron Jackson played a heck of a lot. They took Avery off the field. It was interesting. They went with 4-man line instead of 5.
They did. He looked active out there too. And by the way, I thought it was Fletcher Cox's probably. I don't know if it was his best. It might have been his best game. I thought he was very active.
He had a good game.
Yeah. Those guys did a good job of. Again, we're talking about a beat up Patrick offensive line, but those guys did a nice job of kind of like cutting across and swimming across the blocking to get into the backfield and making it difficult for the Saints. So I thought it all starts with the front four. We know that. The blitzing sure helped, but I think even on plays that they didn't blitz, that you saw a decent amount of pressure. Josh Sweat was able to at least get pressure. He didn't get a sack, but he got pressure. Barnett got in there a few times. It was a nice mix. It was a really nice mix of pressure that's created and dialed up and pressure that is just authentic from a 4-man rush, which is what you want.
Question for you. Do you think Cox is buying into this defense?
That's a great question. I think it goes beyond buying into the defense. I think you have to, if you're Fletcher Cox, the question you have to ask is, do you think Fletcher's going to be around next year? And does Fletcher already know that he's not going to be here next year? So what? And he knows he's not winning the Super Bowl this year. So is he kind of caught in limbo here as far as, what is he playing for?
I don't know, but it seems like from what we understand that the last 2 games, though it doesn't show on the stat sheet, he's actually gotten off the ball and played well, and he looks like he's re-engaged. I don't know. Again, it doesn't show with sacks, but his pressure rate is up.
Yeah,
I don't have an answer for it. That's why I was asking. I wonder if maybe the buy-in's better, and obviously they've been more aggressive, no doubt. The Broncos were without both tackles last week. The Saints were without both tackles on a guard this week. Gannon knew what he was getting. He was aggressive. As you said with Slay, we'll see.
Right.
And then Davion Taylor not playing. He's going to be out a bit. He's good. So he's going on IR, so this is going to be a problem. Our understanding is he actually has come a long way. I know it doesn't show in stats, but way less mental errors. Very quick to the ball, wrapping up. He's tackling better. It's another point we don't really talk about much with him.
Yeah.
Tackling is better. Remember, this guy's not played a lot of football in his life. He started late. He's playing better, though most reasonable people would say they reach for that pick in the 3rd round. He started to we saw in training camp, you and I were there for like 3 days together. We saw how well he played before he hurt his what the hell was it? I know the calf was later. But
first it was the hip and then it was the calf. Yeah.
Hip. Right. So he started to come on. It's a shame. And now Alex Singleton's obviously going to have to play. It hurts their depth. Yeah. So we'll see.
I still don't know that it hurts them overall. It hurts their depth. I think that you're right that Davion, when I think of what's made a difference for the Eagles at the linebacker level, it's that at one point they were playing Eric Wilson and they were playing, was it Eric Wilson and Singleton to start, or was it Eric Wilson and somebody else? Yeah.
No, it was
Eric Wilson and Singleton. Yeah.
Singleton.
Yeah, they weren't doing a great job again. And Eric was really not good at run or coverage. And then they put TJ Edwards in there. And then Davion Taylor got in there more because, like you said, Davion had missed those weeks with the calf. And they started to play better against the run. Those guys are much better. They're better than what we saw in the first 3 weeks when Wilson and Singleton are out there. So maybe they won't be as good against the run with Alex Singleton in there because he's more of a rangier linebacker side to side than downhill. So if I'm the Giants and I'm Freddie Kitchens and I know Freddie likes to throw the ball around a little bit, but I may be trying to run a little bit more downhill with Saquon and with Booker, who runs pretty hard. He's a
bigger back.
Well. Yeah, he's a bigger guy. I might be trying to attack them knowing that Davion's out that way. We'll talk about that more Friday.
Well, but, by the way, they did give up some runs. See, the Eagles' run defense now is not good, but I would say they're controlling the run instead of giving up the run like we were earlier in the season. That's probably where they're at. And obviously, when you have a big lead like they keep doing, it helps. But the big story of this game, and I know the reporters were asking Gannon about it. They were having fun with him. And I'm guessing because of just kind of where the Saints are, maybe they felt like they would change it up and they just to do something different because I think Gannon has much more confidence in his secondary now. He kind of talked about that. he went so much dime. And like, remember, we don't do, they don't do dime and all that. They did so much dime. I have to look to see what the stats are on this. Hopefully, happen for Friday's show.
Yeah.
But man, how about that? Going 6 DBs quite a bit.
Yep, they did.
And obviously it's sub, but it was just really interesting. Epps played a little bit more than he normally would because he doesn't get a lot of stats, but he played a lot. Just the way that they did it is just really, I was not expecting them to do it the way that they did, and I give them credit. It worked because the Saints were not expecting it.
No, I think that was the beauty of this entire game. As you said, the unscouted looks, the things that the Eagles did differently, both offensively and defensively, that nobody saw coming. That was a really nice part about it. I'm trying to figure out how much Epps played because it seemed to me he did play a decent. He played 38% of the defense, which is probably how much they were in dime, which is a lot of dime, to be honest with you. So it's good to getting Epps on the field as that. I guess what do you want to call that, big nickel or dime or whatever. It's working because it gets Epps on the field, and I do like the way he's been making plays. I gotta tell you, I've been piecing together something in my head that has nothing to do with the Eagles, but what you said about the Luke Falk game, right? And how the Eagles just came after him. It was really ugly. It was almost embarrassing for the Jets to have to. But I that was the first year of the Joe Douglas era, if I'm not mistaken, because it was
2019. 2019.
I'm doing the math here and thinking, they traded for Flacco a couple weeks ago, and they played him over Mike White against Miami this past weekend. And the specific quote was, "We brought Joe in for games like this because we know that the Dolphins, you'd seen what the Dolphins did to Lamar Jackson the week before. They blitz a lot." And I'm now thinking like they were afraid of a Mike White, Luke Falk type of situation where the Dolphins were just going to blitz the bejesus out of this guy, and he wasn't ready for it. And Joe played well in that game. He was 24-39, 2 touchdowns, no picks. There was a tie game in the fourth quarter. It was far from the embarrassment that they suffered when Luke Falk had to play against the Eagles a few years ago. I actually think that was a correlation to what had happened to them in that Luke Falk game, them deciding to go get Joe and play him this week. I didn't think about that until you brought that up, that Luke Falk thing. How about
story about that game. So they got him 10 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
He got hit 16 times.
Embarrassing.
Graham had 3 sacks. Skandrick had the 2 sacks. Did he get a touchdown?
He had a strip sack touchdown. He basically took the ball away from Luke Falk and then ran into the end zone. Yeah. Nate Geary had an interception, I think.
Okay. Here's a trivia question. Name a guy who had a sack in that game.
Well, other than
who is hang on. Okay, actually, on the D line, no, he's a D tack. Okay, I don't know if you'll get this. He's still on the Eagles. Well, he's on the Eagles now, and he has sack in that game. He's a D tackle, but he's not Fletcher Cox.
Is he on the Eagles 53?
Yes. Now, I did not know this guy was on their team in 19. Wow, I didn't know.
Is it Ridgeway?
Yep. The immortal. What's his first name? Oh God, the preseason champion. I called him the sack champion of Hall. The guy.
Trayvon. Was it? No. Deshaun Hall.
Deshaun Hall. Yes, good call.
Yeah.
He had a sack in that game. I mean, then he tore his ACL in the last game. That was
Adam. Your mom. You always like to talk about your mom. Your mom had a sack and an interception in that game. Okay.
My 91-year-old mother, Florence. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, that game was an embarrassment to humanity. So,
poor guy.
But yeah. So, all right. So our next podcast will drop Friday morning. So I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. We'll, of course, in that podcast, we'll preview the Eagles-Giants game. We'll have all the injury updates. We'll have all the matchups. We'll break it down soup to nuts the way we always do. Again, look out for Q&A show Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Start your Thanksgiving off with some Quentin Michael and Jason Avant. That'll be a nice little listen before the games get started. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And again, look for the Ask ITB that we'll have up on our YouTube and podcast platforms later this week. That'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks, of course, to Hunter Brody, our producer. Check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads, and his website is broadsmedia.com. As always, we thank you and wish you a happy Turkey Day, everybody, here on Inside the Birds.